So good day, everyone. So welcome to the Zanya Company Seminar Workshop. And by the way, I'm Jefferson Tolorio. We will discuss this matter entitled Employment Interviews with my partner, Miss Beatrice Tanduyan, and we are your speaker for today. In this seminar workshop, you can apply these tips on your upcoming interview, and it is beneficial for us. So save your questions later on because we entertain questions after this seminar workshop. So without further ado, so let's get started. In this juncture, our agenda for today is to know what is interview, what are the basic interview skills, what are the some tips under the basic interview skills, what are the advantages and disadvantages of interview, what is the purpose of interview questions, and lastly is what are the tips to improve interview performance. So what is interview? Interviews are an opportunity to show you're an enthusiastic worker who would do a job well. You can make the most of the opportunity by being prepared, presenting a professional demeanor, and describing your qualification well. There are many types of interviews, and each may have a different purpose. Screening interviews, for example, are designed to shape the applicant pool. Group or panel interviews yield multiple perspectives from a single meeting. And telephone and video conferencing interview help employers find the best prospect before investing time and effort in a face-to-face interview. Regardless of the purpose of your interview, you're more likely to do well if you first learn some basic interview skills. So what are the basic interview skills? There are three types basic interview skills. So first thing is preparation. Career counselor says a good job interview starts well before the job seekers and interviewer meet. Preparation can be as important as the interviews itself. Researching, practicing, and dressing appropriately are the first steps to make the most of the job interview. Second is showtime. On the day of the interview, give yourself plenty of time to get ready for and travel to the interview. Plan to arrive 10 to 15 minutes earlier. And remember to thank interviewer that at the end of the interview. So third is following up. Even after interview is over, an important task remains: secure a good impression by sending a thank you letter to the interviewer, preferably with 2 days. Thank you letters should be a brief, a few graphs if emailed, less than 1 page if they are handwritten. Address the letter to the person who interviewed you and make sure to spell his or her name correctly. So next is the tips under preparation. First thing is to research. Learning about the company and the position which you are being interviewed is essential, and it will help you to show your employers that you are really interested. Before arriving for an interview, you should know or what the company does and any recent changes it has undergone. Learn about the company's mission and goals. With this in mind, you can show during the interview how your qualifications match the company's needs. The company itself is often the easiest place to start your research. Many, many businesses have information, their websites that tailor to job seekers. But don't stop there. Indeed, research is important. Read news publication, trade journals, and other sources of information to learn about the company. Employment and social webs, media sites, essential, especially those related to business networking, and may more specific information about the company's culture. For example, current and former employees may post reviews of their employer or offer the details about questions they were asking during a job interview. Second is practicing or practice. Another important step in preparing for a job interview is practice describing your professional characteristics. Think of example from a past jobs, schoolworks, and activities to illustrate your important skills. Recalling accomplishments for hand when you are being evaluated helps you to give solid answers during the interview. Every interview is different, and it always possible there will be questions that surprise you. Nevertheless, interviews suggest rehearsing with the career counselors or a friend to build confidence and pose. As a starting point, trying answer these questions aloud. What are your strengths and weaknesses? Can you tell me about the time you dealt with conflict as part of the team? Why did you or sorry, why did you leave or are you leaving your job? What are your goals? Why should we hire you? Each questions allow you to illustrate your favorable characteristics. When responding, focus on subject related to the job. For example, if asked to describe yourself, think about or talk about your professional characteristics and background, not your personal life. Some questions, such as those about hobbies or interests, may seem irrelevant. Interviewers ask these questions of type of questions rather to learn about your personal and test your interpersonal skills. These questions also let you highlight some of your other strengths. Whatever the question is, emphasize the positive. If you if there's a weakness evident on your resume or transcript, such as being fired from a job or receiving poor grades, rehearse an explanation before the interview in case you are asked about them. Focus on what you learned from the experience and be careful never to criticize a previous employer or coworker. Next is look professional. Dress for interview as would for an important day on a job, such as meeting with a supervisor or a presentation to a client. Don't let your appearance distract the interviewer from your qualifications. Keep your hair net and cover any tattoos or piercings if possible. Avoid cologne and perfume, large pieces of jewelry, and heavy or unnatural makeup. Clothes, clothes rather should be clean, ironed, and fit well. And shoes should be polished and closed too. So there's tips under showtime. First, first thing is nervousness. It's natural to feel nervous when interviewing. But remember, you have the skills the employers need. The interview is your chance to show how the skills you would be a good fit for the job. Second is the first impression. An in-person interview begins the moment you arrive. Every, Everyone you meet from receptionist to the hiring manager will form an impression of you. To ensure the impression is positive, remember that your words and mannerism affects how others perceive you. These are the and, and these are the positive actions. So first is when greeting people, smile and shake hands. Second is make an eye contact and maintain your good posture. Third is don't use slang or give curt one word answers. Don't chew gum, bite your nails, or use phone. Because making a positive impression is just as important when you interview remotely. Remember to speak clearly and listen attentively, just as you would if you were meeting with the interviewer in person. Standard politeness is important in an interview because the interviewer knows a little bit about you. For example, don't presume that you should use your interviewer's first name just because the company's atmosphere is relaxed. So next is responding to questions. After introductions, the interviewer may explain the job in more detail, discuss the company, or initiate friendly conversation. The, the interviewer will then ask questions to gauge how well you would fill the position. When responding to the interviewer, avoid vague answers such as "I want to work with people." Instead, describing the specific ways you want to work with them, perhaps by giving examples of how you have successful done so in the past. Focus on your strength, but be honest. Next is turning the tables. At some point, usually toward the end of the interview, you will have the opportunity to ask your own questions. Use this time to learn about the position and often the person who would be your boss. After all, you are also deciding whether you want the job. Before leaving the interview, make sure you understand the next step in hiring process. Find out whether there will be another round of interviews, whether you should provide additional information, and when a hiring decision will be made. So what are the advantages and disadvantages of interview? The advantages of interview is you can only talk so much about person by reading a cover letter or scanning online profile. Interviewing by phone or in person lets you get a feel for the candidate's personality, style, communication skills, and ability to think under pressure. This is especially important if the job requires a lot of in-person contact with clients and customers. The disadvantages of interview is, let's say you are exceptional employee, but you have a social anxiety in situation like interviews. In this instance, the disadvantage of interview is that you can't make a second first impression. If you stammer, sweat, or otherwise present yourself in a poor light, the in-person interview can weaken your chance of being hired. So what is the purpose of interview questions? Employers ask interview questions to gauge how well the candidate will perform in a potential job. For example, in high stress in sales environment may be asked how will you handle tight deadlines and earning goals. If you're interviewing for a customer service position, you might be asked about how will you empathize and problem solve. Some interview questions will also ask you to give example of how you handle past workplace issues to get a feel for how you behave and perform in a real world situation. So the next part is the presentation of Miss Beatrice. So I'm giving the spot to Miss Beatrice for giving you the tips on how you can improve your interview performance. Wait a moment.
So, so thank you for the warmest welcome, Mr. Jefferson Solorio. And now I will be discussing the tips to improve interview performance. So the first tips is practice a good nonverbal communication. It's about demonstrating confidence, standing straight, making eye contact, and connecting with a firm handshake. That first nonverbal impression can be a great beginning or a quick ending to your interview. So the second is the dress for the job or a company. It is important to know what to wear to an interview and will and to be well groomed. Whether you wear a suit or something less formal depends on the company culture and the position you are seeking. If possible, call to find out about the company dress code before the interview. Third is listen. One of the most crucial interview tips is listen. From the very beginning of the interview, your interviewer is giving your information either directly or indirectly. If you are not hearing it, you are you are missing a major opportunity. Good communication skills include listening and letting a person heard what was said. Observe your interviewer and match the style and pace. Number four is don't talk too much. Telling the interviewer more than he needs to know could be a fatal mistake. When you have not prepared ahead of time, you may ramble when answering the interview questions. Sometimes talking yourself right out of the job. Prepare for the interview by reading through a job posting matching your skills with the position's requirements and relating only the information. Number five is don't the interview is the professional meeting to talk business. This is not about making a new friends. Your level of familiarity should mimic the interviewer's demeanor. Number six is use appropriate language. It is a giving that you should use appropriate language during the interview. Be aware of any appropriate slang words or references to age, range, religion, politics, or sexual orientation. These topics could send you outdoor every quickly. Number seven is don't be cocky. Attitude plays a key role in your interview success. There is a fine balance between confidence, professionalism, and modesty. Even if you're putting on a performance to demonstrate your ability, overconfidence is a bad, if not worse, as being too reserved. All the interview tips in the world won't save you if you come off unpleasant to work with. Number eight is take care to answer the questions. When interviewer asks for example of a time when you did something, they are asking behavioral interview questions, which are designed to elicit a sample for your past behavior. If you feel only don't answer the questions, but you also miss the opportunity to prove your ability and professionalism. Number nine is ask questions. Asking asking questions also gives you the opportunity to find out if this is the right place for you. When asking if they have any question, most candidates answered no. Wrong answer. Part of knowing how to interview is being ready to ask questions that demonstrate the interest in what goes on the company. The best questions come from listeners who are genuinely interested in your additional information. Number 10 is don't appear desperate. When you interview with the please hire me approach, you appear desperate and less confidence. Reflect the three C's during the interview: call, calm, and confidence. Then, so I have some quotes for you. Talent will get you the door, but character will keep you in the room. And that's all for my part. And now, if you have any questions, you have free to ask. I think there is no questions. Everything discussed well, and we will be sending you the link form for you to answer. That's all for today, guys. Thank you, and God bless for you all. Okay. Beautiful na wala.